COVID-19 pandemic has impacted almost every sphere of human life. As Indian companies try to make a comeback, they will need to tailor their strategies to the unique environment that many refer to as the new normal. One of the key features of this new normal is the heightened influence of digital in consumer lives across categories. Hi, I'm Suresh Venkat, and in this episode of Facebook and BCG present Turn the Tide, Unlock the New Normal, we dive into the consumer packaged goods industry. While down from the pre-pandemic growth rate of approximately 16%, the CPG industry continues to remain resilient. The adoption of digital by consumers kept the sector afloat even amidst the income uncertainty. Over the next half an hour, we analyze how marketers should craft their go-to customer strategies to accelerate growth while leveraging the 500 million plus consumers connected via digital. Today, I'm joined by Sandeep Bhushan, Director and Head of India GMS Facebook, and Kanika Sanghi, Partner and Associate Director, BCG India. Welcome, Sandeep and Kanika. Sandeep, first question. Now, the consumer packaged goods or CPG industry fell squarely into essential products that effectively saw no lockdown. Give us a sense of the three big highlights of this report as they apply to the CPG industry.
Thanks, Suresh. And you're right. If there's the essential category to discuss, it is CPG. The role that it plays in everyday India is like no other. And I think the relevance of the mobile platforms is stark today because of just the scale and reach. This industry works on scale. So we've seen a 1.3x rise in the share of digitally influenced urban consumers in just the last 3 months. That's the scale of the ramp. Interestingly, offline remains a very large channel and will continue to be the dominant channel. But on the online side, we're seeing 30 to 40% increase in new online buyers, and roughly half of these will increase their online purchases. But fundamentally, the salience and the influence of what consumers experience on mobile will allow them to engage with CPG brands, whether they shop online or offline. And the other critical piece that we've seen in the context of lockdown is the need for brand trust. And the CPG industry has led the trust conversation always with their work around salience. So keeping the salience up and delivering safely are the other key pieces that become even more relevant at this point of time.
Kanika, over to you now. According to the report, pre-COVID-19, the CPG category in India was growing at a steady 16%. How has the pandemic affected the market mix, and what are the underlying reasons for this change in consumer behavior?
Thanks, Suresh. You are right. CPG was anyways a sector which was growing well. As we have looked at COVID and understood the impact of that on CPG, we are seeing three main kind of consumption shifts, in the consumer behavior. The first one is really about changes in the brands which consumers were consuming. So in general, as people have been more uncertain about their income, there has been greater value consciousness about what people buy. But in CPG, it has impacted different subcategories in a different way. So while on one hand, we have the relatively less essential, semi-essentials as we call it, which is around personal care, cosmetics, packaged food, where we've seen that almost 33% of consumers are actually looking to save money by buying lesser expensive or cheaper products and brands than earlier. At the same time, as we've looked at the more essentials like staples or household care, we've seen a similar quantum of people actually looking to buy more expensive brands or products. A lot of it is being driven by the need for health and wellness, the need for convenience, which people perceive that many of these relatively more premium products would offer than otherwise. Within CPG, hygiene-related products and solutions have seen a significant uptake. And our sense is that many of these, the stickiness of many of these will actually depend on how satisfied the consumers are from the experience that they get out of this, during these months. The last kind of shift that we are seeing is in terms of the demand occasions themselves. As consumers are spending more time at home, a lot of the consumption is happening at home, which obviously means that their spends on food, etc., are going up. But at the same time, certain categories, for example, packaged snack, or certain categories even within personal care, which were a lot more dependent on out of home or impulse, are also seeing the pinch of that.
Sandeep, back to you. We now live in a world of social distancing and a remote way of living. Digital, of course, continues to have a major influence on the sale of packaged goods. But having said that, What are some of the main challenges that brands are currently facing that digital can help resolve, especially for a seamless transition from offline to online or an O2O experience?
We said that consumers will revert to brands they trust, and driving salience and being mentally available is therefore key to driving that trust. The challenge, of course, is the limitation on the creative environment at this point of time, but more importantly, telling stories in the way consumers want to consume them. So one of the interesting pieces we've seen turn up across bulk of the FMCG leaders is the use of influencers. The second is segmentation. The targeting possibilities, of course, on digital overall, and even specifically on our channels, is very, very significant, whether it's demographic, which could be affluence based, or behavior that you already know as a brand. Add to that the whole play of regionalization now becomes even more relevant with hyperlocalization. And therefore, the ability to hyperlocalize campaigns, again, is not just an efficiency variable, but actually a results variable because you're actually reaching the communication that the consumer desires at that point of time. With the media habits changing so drastically over the last year and a half, with the acceleration of digital adoption consumers, and now even more so, what is the right frame to measure the multimedia consumption that consumers do in their journeys? And tools such as the custom mix modeling CMM from Nielsen has allowed more and more brands to understand this impact. Cadbury's 5-star, for example, recently ran the CMM model to understand what is driving their sales in mass retail.
Kanika, consumers are becoming more value conscious in their decision making given their income uncertainty. In demographic terms, where are the changes likely to be most evident, and what can marketers do to target these demographics?
As the pandemic has progressed, what we've seen is that concerns around income have actually continued to become worse across cohorts. So, across people in metros as well as smaller cities, the more affluent people, the less affluent people, across any dimension that you might take. But having said that, there are obviously differences. And there are differences on three dimensions. The first one is around income, where we have seen that the less affluent people are obviously much more concerned about their income levels. So in the surveys that we've been running, we've seen that among the more affluent people, around 40% are worried about their income, whereas as we look at the less affluent cohorts, around 65% people are worried about their income. The second dimension is around the geography itself, where the metros and the slightly bigger cities are showing much higher level of concerns around their daily lifestyles being impacted, them changing their routines. And the third is more linked to the life stage, where the older and the more settled consumers are feeling slightly better. What this means for companies is that as they are looking to connect with consumers in the current world, two things are very important. First is that they have to ensure that they are talking to the relatively more resilient cohorts of consumers very effectively. And the second part is about the message and the communication itself. So what is the value proposition that the brands are communicating, which will get these consumers, and not only these consumers, even the ones which are relatively less resilient, even those to buy their products and brands is very important.
So, Sandeep, what is the new path to purchase for a CPG consumer post COVID-19, and how should the industry adapt to this change?
Digital influence is up, so they will consume information on mobile. We know that's up, like I mentioned, 1.3x. Therefore, the presence both online and offline, and the organization of the business units and the consumer journeys both is a fresh challenge. Fortunately, there are now tools available for businesses to have presence both, of course, on marketplaces and e-commerce, but also on their own digital assets. And most critically, given that all of these new variables come in, the question to ask is what is the best way to derive ROI from the marketing mix that there is, and therefore the need for a mix modeling or whichever tool that allows businesses to evaluate the right way to get business results is critical to win with the consumer.
That brings us almost to the end of this segment of the show, but not before we get closing comments from both our panelists. Kanika, I'm coming to you first. So here's the scenario. I'm a very busy CPG marketer and I have the time to absorb one insight from your report. What will that one insight be?
The consumer habits are typically very, very hard to change. But right now, the consumer is open to change. And the players which actively take this opportunity to create the new normal for consumer pathway would be the ones who create a long-term win for themselves.
Sandeep, coming to you with the same question. A busy CPG marketer has time to absorb one highlight from your report. What should that highlight be?
But the one point I want marketers to take home is that the ecosystem is ready. And that includes not just consumers who are spending time on our platforms, uh, includes also tools that we today have, all the way on a full funnel approach. But even more importantly, creative agencies are ready.
Right, Sandeep and Kanika, thank you for your insights on the consumer packaged goods sector. The knowledge that you've shared will hold marketers in very good stead. A quick reminder for our audience, if you'd like to know more about the Turn the Tide initiative, please scan the QR code to download this industry-first report on consumer packaged goods. We are now joined by Amit Oja, Head of Agency, Facebook India, and Pankaj Sharma, Director, Consumer Division, L'Oreal. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Now, Pankaj, first question for you. What are some of the consumer behavior trends that you are seeing post COVID 19, and how have these changes impacted your marketing strategy and media mix?
At L'Oreal, we are still observing the trends, and I think the lasting trends will emerge now. During the lockdown, consumer had very little choice. They lived in a very controlled situation, so any strong conclusion on the behavior and shifts could be slightly risky. Having said that, there are three big themes for us, which are also being pointed out in your study. The first one is the focus on essential, or let me read it as defocus on discretionary purchase. This is true due to social distancing, no outside occasion, no outside dinner, no movies, no parties, and suddenly the need to prep yourself, look your best, do your makeup has gone down. But the good part is that we are pivoting fast to other categories like hair care, skincare, and hair color. These categories have shown much more resilience during this period and helping us to come back to our regular level of sales. So that's the big change we are making while makeup is on a short break. The other theme again related to consumption is what we is again the what the study is again pointing out is the rise of DIY as consumers are bringing outside inside, and we think this trend will accelerate further because consumers would avoid going out. Here we are trying to turn the tide and focus on beauty from home. Firstly, through our range of products like home hair coloration, facial mask, and innovations like hand creams, as hands are getting dry due to frequent washing. Secondly, using the technology like virtual try ons on our websites via Facebook Live, making it easier for the consumers and handhold her virtually while she tries her first hair color at home. We could clearly see O plus O in full action with COVID. And for example, 18% of the people who bought personal care products online, they were the first time buyers. And so we clearly see a channel shift, and this trend is going to rise. As L'Oreal has been very active on digital and e-commerce, and we want to transform ourselves from a pure beauty company to a beauty tech company. And I think COVID has just pushed us harder into that direction.
Staying with you, Pankaj, people are spending a lot of time online, and digital influence for CPG consumers is clearly accelerating. What will this mean for L'Oreal India, and what are some of the initiatives that you are taking to capitalize on this digital wave?
We have been pivoting to replicate at home experiences and e advise for our categories through AR and VR. For example, Modiface. Here we are making a big shift to using this platform, which could enable to trying out your favorite shade, skin diagnosis, and have one-on-one consultation. What is interesting is that we have seen these tech solutions are delivering much richer online experience, at the same time higher conversion rates as compared to our regular advertising. On the other side, the way we are planning our media and shifts towards online, given the ability to geo target, as all the markets are not the same. Secondly, our full funnel approach, be it pre COVID or post COVID. This means that we not only leverage video solutions on Facebook to broaden our consumer base and build awareness, but we also take the consumer down the funnel using conversion ads and a mix of assets and campaign strategies. Thirdly, actively building first party data to target online shoppers and create the right cohorts so we can increase our ROI on our media spends.
Amit, let me come to you with a Facebook specific question. What are the top Facebook solutions that marketers can leverage in this new normal?
Thanks, Venkat. Uh, so I'll start with four solutions that I think that are extremely relevant for CPG marketers in these times. First is sequential storytelling. Now, Facebook as a platform is a full stack platform. Now, what that essentially means is that a marketer today can start from the top of the funnel and go down to the conversion. With sequential storytelling and given frequency controls and targeting, what you can do today is you can drive objectives across the funnel. The second one would be branded content, which I think assumes a lot more importance given that people are socially distancing. Facebook and Instagram are platforms that are built on people, built on communities. Influencers today can actually help build better connect with people at large. The third one is replicating in-person experiences. If you're not going to a retail outlet, how do you really communicate? So things like chat, uh, click to Messenger, click to WhatsApp, apart from offering leads, also help in assisted conversions. Fourth is again is something which marketers have been doing, but I think assumes far more importance today is the market mix modeling. Given the disruption that we are seeing in the media space, the increase of influence of digital, I think we'll have to relook at ROIs going forward, and this is an extremely good tool which can help marketers plan media in the new normal.
Pankaj, consumers usually need customized solutions and an expert to speak to, especially for beauty products. What role does brand advocacy play in this time, and how are you leveraging digital for it?
Yeah, so Suresh, we know that apart from mass media, word of mouth has been a strong purchase driver. And we recognize this even when we shift our center of activation to digital. In the new beauty tech world, our role will be of a beauty advisor, and we could enable and make this effective through the use of influencers, category experts, EBAs, live session, one-on-one customized solution, because we really believe in the power of one-on-one communication and are leveraging all digital tools to bring these connections alive. As we speak, we are working with Facebook family of apps on how to combine advice and commerce to create a platform where we can provide end-to-end solutions.
So, Amit, how can marketers leverage Facebook and Instagram more effectively along with other traditional mediums?
The rationale for any media selection for marketers is based on two primary parameters. One is reach, and the second, of course, is influence. Now, despite the challenge that we face in India, where we do not have a unified measurement system, and I think that deters a lot of brands for looking at integrated reach curves. However, given that we have solutions like a Nielsen tool from CMM and the cross media tool, these principles of integrated reach and influence can be applied today using Facebook, Instagram, and our family of apps.
It's time for closing comments on the show. Pankaj, I'm going to come to you first. What's the number one worry for a marketer? What keeps you awake at night?
I think the times are very uncertain. Beauty is an eternal requirement linked to fundamental need to feel and look good. During these uncertain times, I think consumers gravitate towards brands they trust and are high on credibility. So there's an opportunity for the brands to reconnect with the consumers in this new context. Like everything else, the market will transform, and this too shall pass. But as long as our brands stay close to the consumers and continue to gain their trust, we should be fine. So if you're asking me what is the one fundamental thing, I think it's about building brands and trust of consumers during this time, which will keep me awake in the night.
Amit, let me come to you with a closing question. What's the one thing that a marketer needs to keep in mind?
Like Pankaj said, these are unprecedented times. We're seeing newer behaviors and trends, and some of them I think are there for marketers to leverage. I think the most relevant one for CPG marketers is the increase of digital's influence, both on the final conversion and how they go about searching and researching and discovering their products. I think that is one trend which all CPG marketers should leverage on.
And with that, we are at the end of today's show. I'd like to thank Amit and Pankaj for being part of such an engaging discussion on the CPG sector. There's a lot of actionable information that our viewers will take away from this discussion. In fact, I'd like to inform our audience that to know more about the Turn the Tide initiative, please scan the QR code to download the CPG report. It's a wrap on this episode of Facebook and BCG present Turn the Tide, Unlock the New Normal in association with CNBC TV 18. In the coming weeks, we will be putting other sectors under the microscope with our panel of experts to offer you both cutting-edge analysis of the evolving business ecosystem as well as targeted marketing strategies to help your brand in the new normal. For now, it's goodbye and many thanks for tuning in.